This is a fun time for me. I get to share about a book that I love. It's probably the best book I ever wrote, or co-authored, I should say. My friend Salem Thine and I, we co-authored this book together. It's about personal accountability. And it's the idea of you owning your life. That's the simplest way we talk about it, is you own it. And we wrote this book because we felt that the world seems to have a big need for accountability these days. And yet people aren't really aware of what that looks like. So this morning, I'm going to share with you the principles of the book. I'm going to walk you through just into chapters. You wouldn't even have to read it. I do recommend you do so. But in that, I'm going to teach you everything the book's going to tell you in a really quick overview. And then hopefully you'll be inspired to go buy the book and do the work and learn and grow. It's for your benefit. We love you. We wanted you to have this knowledge. We've walked this journey, Salem and I. We by no means have our act together. We're still working on being accountable in different areas of our life. Always it's a learning thing. But it's a journey. I just all of a sudden flashback. Is my zipper up? Okay. My son said, check your zipper, and I thought he was funny, and I didn't. What if he saw something and I didn't actually pay attention? So all of a sudden I froze thinking, ha ha ha, my zipper. All right. This whole idea of accountability is this idea that you own your life. A lot of people live life as a victim, and we want them to understand there's freedom and accountability to move to a victorious lifestyle where you are not a victim. And especially those of us who follow Jesus Christ. The Bible says we are victorious in Christ. There's no reason why you can't rock your life. And life is hard. It was hard for Jesus. And it's weird, but we've come to a place in our lives where we just think everything should be easy. And that's not what he promised. He specifically said life will be hard. And yet when it's hard, we get all freaked out. That's messed up. We should be ready for it to be hard and then happy when it's not. And part of accountability is for us to own the journey that we're on. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So I run business groups, CEO groups for leaders who are business owners and CEOs here in DFW. And one of the things that we practice is this art of radical open-mindedness. And so today, as I share things with you, I want you to join me in this effort of being radically open-minded. Because when you're open-minded, you're able to embrace a thought that you might not normally think. And that's the whole idea of learning, right? And so I'm going to share things with you today. And if you are defensive, you won't listen to it. You'll shut down. But if you can let two opposing thoughts come into your brain and kind of push on each other, that's a skill that leaders need to have. You need to be able to entertain two directly opposing thoughts at the same time and not shut down. And that allows you the time to process it and think, okay, what do I really believe? Practice something I always encourage people to do. Listen long enough to know where I'm right. You ever have a discussion with someone and you watch them and they're just ready for you to stop talking so they can immediately argue the opposite of whatever you're saying? Don't do that. Join me today in just being radically open-minded, and you'll learn something that you probably have never thought of before. So if I say to you, hey, you might be acting like a victim, and you go, well, I'm not acting like a victim. Maybe not. But maybe you're acting in a way you hadn't thought of before, and you haven't recognized it as a victim. And I will show you the ways that Salem and I listed of how we played the victim in our journey in hopes it helps you see things in a different light. Oh, I'm supposed to use a clicker. You didn't miss anything. It's not up there. All right, so most people are ignorant of the idea of accountability, but you really don't understand the power that accountability has in your life. No one tells themselves they want to be a victim, but sometimes they play that by default. Now, there are indeed times where in your life you have been victimized, and that's real. But being victimized does not mean you have to stay a victim. And I know what that's like. I'll tell you about that a little bit, about my own journey. But we're not going to stay as victims. We're going to practice this art of owning it and moving on to a victorious life. Click. Right on. I just want to show that picture of Salem, how handsome that guy is. Let me go to this next one. I make a living helping people figure out what they want to do. I'm an executive coach. I never tell someone what to do. I ask them what do they want to do, and then we work on that together. And the question that I ask people a lot of times is, are you living the life you want? I mean, are you really living the life you really want? And the answer is often no, and that includes their business. But sometimes we just get in a rut and we just do whatever's in front of us. We're not really living the life we want, personally and professionally. I want you to think about that this morning, because that's the most important question we're going to talk about today. Are you living the life you really want? Kathy and I faced this problem, my beautiful wife and I. We faced this in 2019. And my business had been going along, running these CEO groups for 6 years, and some years were up, some years were down, but the constant theme was I spent more money than I earned. I know no one else in this room does that, but I did that. And so after all these years of owing the government money and jacking up our credit cards to live the life we wanted, we owed $90,000 in debt. Now some of you are like, whoa, and some of you are like, pfft. Depends on your journey, right? But to me, it was a big deal. It haunted me. It haunted me all the time. And we made decisions in light of this debt. And the angst and frustration that we constantly carried as a married couple was irritating. So at the beginning of 2019, we got together one night. We whiteboarded, what do we want? And we wrote all these things we want in our life. And then we started racing. Oh, that's not that big a deal. If I could only choose one thing, what does it get down? And at the very end, the only one thing we could agree upon that we both wanted was we wanted to live a life that honored the Lord. Because we've been given so much. I've been given my salvation. I've been given eternal life. I have an amazing wife. I have healthy children. I live in Texas, the best country in America. Right on. So in light of all that, how do I want to live? And we realized that we weren't living the life we wanted to. And so we set out to figure out what that was, and we found out it was us. And we decided we needed to make some changes. So at the beginning of 2019, we said, hey, if this year God doesn't bless us and help us get out of our $90,000 in debt, we're going to sell our house and use it to start over. And we use the word bless a lot. You ever do that? When's God going to bless me? And I remember going to him, hey, when are you going to bless me? I'm doing a prayer breakfast. Come on, give me a break. And he's like, hey, what'd you do with all that money I already gave you? Why would I give you more? It's a good question. So we decided that we need to fix things. We need to take ownership. And that's when we started our journey. This book, it's about accountability. In the simplest terms, you own it. That's what the book's about. And it seems like the world has lost the idea of accountability. When you look around, it seems like everyone's blaming everyone, making excuses for stuff. You know, in the old days, if you didn't work hard, you didn't eat. We don't have that anymore. Of course, institutions that were there for us are no longer relevant anymore, whether it's the church, marriage, government, civic groups. Nobody cares about those things. They become irrelevant. I mean, the church and the government can give us rules to follow, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And we don't. So following the premise of our book, so now what? What are you going to do about that? So the key to creating accountability in your life is to recognize that your actions have consequences. That's the first step. And as a leader of your company or your family or heck, just your own life, you might say, well, I do own my own consequences. Maybe. But sometimes we look the other way at bad employees, bad clients, bad P&L numbers, bad marriages, bad health, bad finances, bad faith. We don't own it. It just has it. I see so many people working so hard to optimize a crappy life instead of creating the one they really want. What's the point in that? We don't buy crappy software and go, well, we'll just have to work with it. We give it the boot and we start over. Boot, that's a technical word. Write that one down. So in our book, we compare accountability to the idea of climbing a mountain. Climbing a mountain takes intentional focus and a lot of effort, so does accountability. If you're going to live the life you want, it'll require a very specific, focused effort. Here's a phrase. Once you care enough to do the things and change the things you need to change to have the life that you really want, you're on a path from moving from a victim to a victor. Let me say that again. Once you care enough to make the changes you need to move from a life of a victim, you're on a path towards being a victor. But you got to want it. When you take accountability for your life, you gain the power to change everything in your life. Isn't that awesome? When you think of being a victim and you're screwed over by this and this is a bummer and this is, but if you take it, you own it, you could do something about it. Isn't that exciting? If everything that happens to you is outside of your control, you're a victim of everything. But when we own it, we take back the power to do the things that we need to live the life that we really want. And to me, that's freedom. And that's exciting. So we start this journey towards accountability unaware of what the world requires of us to be accountable until someone points out, hey man, this one's on you. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, there's a mountain there. We were unaware. There's some basic truths we want to share with you on this journey. We call them nobody cares truth. I came up with that name. It's mine. First one is no one can hold anyone accountable. You can only hold yourself accountable. You ever tell your team, I'm going to hold you accountable? You ever tell your investors, I'm going to hold my team accountable? You can't do that. They could lie to you. They could just not do it. What are you going to do, fire them? Well, then they're not accountable. You are. You just let them go. Nobody can hold anyone accountable, but you can hold yourself accountable if you want to. Yeah, lost my place. So today, if you're not living the life you really want, it's time for you to own it. It's time for you to do something about it. So what we do is we put this assessment in our book because accountability starts with awareness. And this simple satisfaction that's in the book allows you to help see areas of your personal and professional life that you're not satisfied with, so you have the option to do something about it. This book's available on the lobby. It's on our website. You can buy it on Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Later on, I'll show a QR code at the end of this amazing presentation where you can see the QR code. You can go take this assessment. I really want you to do that today because I think that's the starting point of all these things, is you being aware. Here's a principle. This assessment shows how satisfied you are because satisfaction creates energy. And energy, we all need more energy. Energy fuels us to do the things that we want to do to make the changes that we want. And the more satisfied I am, the more abilities I have to change things. And the first step to having the life you really want is to evaluate the life you already have. And once you see the areas you're not satisfied with, you can do something about it. But what most people do is they blame people. Think about your own reaction when things don't go right. You blame people. You did that when you were a little kid and you got in trouble. It was his fault. We're very quick to do it. We still do that. 2019, I had lots of things I blamed. I even blamed God. Why we got in all this debt? Because God wasn't showing up and giving me the kind of money I deserved. Can you imagine the audacity of that? I'm sure none of you have ever done that. We blamed the economy, we blamed markets, we blamed our franchise, we blamed everything. So in September of that year, I got vertigo for 16 days. You ever have vertigo? That sucks. Vertigo, lay down, you're sick, sit up, you're sick, you can't focus, you can't do anything. 16 days, like 10 days into it, I'm turning to Kathy going, man, we are screwed. Because we owe $90,000, I'm gonna have vertigo the rest of my life. Thankfully, the Lord took it away. But then we're like, okay, that's it. We got to do this thing. We prayed all year long, Lord, drop that big bag of money in our living room so we can get out of debt. And for some reason, he didn't do it. And so by September, we realized, look, we're just kicking the can. We got to do this thing. So we did. Put the house on the market, started working to sell our house. It was a really weird time. But we owned it. And it felt so empowering to own it. Because as tough as my life was before, I felt helpless. I'll talk more about that later. Who or what are you blaming today? The clue that you're blaming someone or something is you're mad at it or mad at them. That's a pretty good clue that you're mad because you're blaming someone for something else. So if blame doesn't work, we make excuses. Excuse is the evil twin of blame. I can't move up the ladder. My boss is a jerk. Maybe. Excuses seem like a quick fix, but all it does is remove the willingness to try to do something about it. My mom always told me, argue for your limitations and they eventually become yours. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps us in our comfort zone. You know what another word for comfort zone is? Fear. I was a horrible salesperson, so I never made sales calls. No wonder my business didn't grow for 6 years. I was awkward. If I called someone, they didn't want to talk to me, I'd be sad. So I just make no more sales calls. It wasn't until 2020 when I met Frank Gustafson, Sandler's sales training guru. Frank taught me all the things I need to learn about doing something meticulously and focused in sales. And it turns out I'm a really good sales guy. I had to remove the excuse that held me back as a victim. Go figure. So when blame doesn't work, I look over here to see if it's slide changing. I look horrible on screen. You got to be close to me to see what I really look like. That's a bad vision of me. I'm decently okay. So when blame and excuse doesn't work, we just say we can't. I can't afford to take a lower paying job to pursue a passion I have. You ever say that when you get looking at a job, you're thinking about getting a job offer and they're paying you only this much, but it's such a cool company, it'd be such a cool job, and you're like, I can't take that job. It's only gonna pay me X. I'm used to making this. They're gonna pay me this. I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I can't sell my house and start over. Yeah, you can. But what we really mean is I won't. Again, we say we can't, but what I really mean is I won't. I know you're doing your job. I just hate seeing myself up there. Have you asked yourself, have I done everything I can do or just the things I want to do? When you make excuses for something, have you really done everything possible? And the answer is usually no, because there's more. Accountability is difficult, but it's not impossible. This dude's name is Nick Vujicic. He's in your office, right, Steve? I think he's in the same building at the Hope Center. This dude has no arms and legs. He swims. He's got a whole ministry and he's got a wife and kids. What's your excuse? It is hard. I get it. I know it's hard. But if you want an excuse, there's plenty. If you want to stay a victim, there's plenty of things to hold you back. It's difficult, but not impossible. So what is something that today you're saying I can't, but you really mean I won't? You need to own that. Hey, if all that doesn't work, we just wait and hope. Wait and hope. Most things don't get better when you wait and hope. They get worse. Like our debt. Every year we'd say, next year, baby. Next year is going to be a good year. Come on, let's hang in there one more year. And then the debt went up and went up and went up. It didn't start at 90,000. It started really small, and then it kept going because we kept waiting and hoping. Making minimum payments on your credit card is waiting and hoping. Hoping your marriage gets better without going to see a counselor is waiting and hoping. 2019, we were done waiting and hoping. And we were hoping that God would bail us out of our bad decisions, but he decided not to, for good reason. We realized that nobody cared if we were broke and miserable and fighting amongst each other unless we cared enough to do something about it. And that's what started with this magical phrase, nobody cares until you do. By the way, nobody cares is a phrase you say to you, not to other people. We had to emphasize this early on in our communications. When you called a meeting at 7:30 in the morning, you made everyone else get to the office on time, and you got stuck in traffic, and you show up at 8 o'clock, and they'd all been waiting for a half an hour. You don't walk in and go, boy, traffic was really awful. You own it, and you say, nobody cares. Nobody cares. You called a meeting at the crack of dawn, and then you show up late for it. They just cared that they were there, and you didn't show up. That's it. We got to start thinking this way about how we own our junk. And by the way, when I say nobody cares, that doesn't mean nobody cares. I care. Salem cares. We love you. We put a lot of effort into writing this book, not to make money. We got to sell 50,000 copies to break even. We're 49,000 short so far, but we're on our way. That book is not for us to retire on. That book is to change your life if you want to. Here's another nobody cares truth. Hey, there's a monitor right there. I could just see right there. It's been there the whole time. Okay. Thank you. When the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of, yeah, I love this phrase. This is me. When the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of where you're going, you will change. And the pain of where we were, it was so bad that we just couldn't wait one more day. We just had to do it. We were tired of not living the life we really wanted, so we needed to own it. And once we stopped blaming God and making excuses for our bad choices or saying we couldn't or waiting and hoping, and instead we just owned it, we faced the reality of where we were. The reality is we had equity in our house and we could sell it. We could use that money to start over. A lot of emotion in this. I'm thankful I have an amazing wife who stood by me and joined me in this journey. I'm sure you've heard the phrase that life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond. And I grew up in a really poor family with an abusive father really scary man. And so when I grew up, I didn't really have a vision of what a man should be like. So there was a lot of unknowns. And through my journey, I went through bankruptcy, I went through a divorce, I've had health issues, I've been unemployed for over a year, I've had problems. And I could be bitter and angry at the world if I want to, but nobody cares. It's up to me to own it so I can have the life I really want. Because the world, my family, are counting on me to get it together, man, and get out and do what you got to do to live the life you really want. And you have a Savior who died for you to free you up to do whatever you are called to. And He is not looking for your excuses, blame, or waiting and hoping. He's empowered you to rock the journey you're on. And the longer you sit back and wait for something else to come up and do it for you, it ain't going to happen. The longer you wait to take the first step in your dream is the least likely it's ever going to happen. We learned that in the big dream thing. Taking our eyes off the injustice of life and how people treated us, and whether or not we were screwed over or not, and putting it on us was the beginning of true accountability in our lives. What reality do you need to acknowledge today? What do you need to own it? Once you face the reality, the hard truth of where you, oh, I have another one there, huh? Yeah. The moment you take accountability for everything in your life is the moment you gain the power to change anything in your life. That's pretty empowering, don't you think? That's not victim mindset, that's victor mindset. Okay, once you take the reality check, the truth of where you are and what it takes to get you where you want to be to have the life you really want will settle in on you, and that might suck. And it sucked for us. It sucked to have to sell our home. It sucked to have to tell my neighbors when they saw the for sale sign and they came up, where are you guys moving? Thinking I'm moving up, right? That's what we do, we only move up. As I have to sell my house and start over because I didn't manage my finances wisely and I'm $90,000 in debt. Oh, okay. They weren't ready for that answer. But I had to own it. That's part of my journey of me owning my own crap, right? When you own your life, you make the tough choices because people are counting on you, but you don't have to do it alone. There are people all around you, here today included, who would be there for you. A wise man gets counsel and is even wiser. You have people in your life who would like to help you if you let them in. We're often unaware of the biasness of our own perspectives. Salem always says, my idea is first but worse. And you, with your biasness, think this is a great decision. But if you invite people in, they're going, what the heck? But we don't want people because then they'll tell us to do stuff we don't want to do. And then we're not owning it, staying that victim. I'm an executive coach. I never tell people what to do. I ask them what they want to do, and then we work on it. So I'm asking you today, what does your life supposed to look like? What do you want it to be like? As you make this journey you're looking along, you need to embrace the facts of your situation, and the solutions almost magically appear. When I got rid of the debt, my ability to see the world was so different. I could make decisions free of that debt burden. I saw things differently. The ability to take a risk was different because I had freed myself from that burden. I used to believe if I worked 7 days a week, I'd still be drowning in debt. One morning I woke up and sat on the couch to spend some time with the Lord, and I had this really weird feeling. We'd already paid off all of our debt. We're in this little tiny rental house. We had folding chairs to sit on because all of our big furniture wouldn't move into this little house. And I remember one morning sitting there and going, what's this feeling I'm having? Oh, it's peace. I forgot what it was like to live in peace. That frog in the water, you slowly turn the temperature over until it cooks itself. I got there and I forgot what I was missing. But when I got it back, I realized how awesome it was. I don't ever want to lose that again. I'm going to own my life the rest of my life because I don't want to live in that kind of prison. Some point to make. Who knows how much time I have left? Does anyone do that kind of stuff? 9:13, what do you think? Can I get another 5 minutes? I'll probably do it. When you're seeking a solution, keep in mind what excellence looks like. Too many business leaders I know tell me how excellent their life is because their company's rocking it. But in excellence, everything must be above the zero line. You cannot tell me how great your life is when you have a great company and your marriage is in the toilet. You cannot tell me how great your life is because you have a whole bunch of money and no rest and no faith and no fun. We're supposed to have fun. Fun is one of my core values. There's one thing you can do today that will change everything. There's a video out there that talks about the wolves of Yellowstone. You got to look it up. And it's about a trophic cascade. And they reintroduced the wolves in Yellowstone because the elk had decimated the valley from years of being there overrun. And when the wolves came back, it changed the behavior of the elk, and the valley came back to life. It's truly a magical video. Wolves of Yellowstone, look it up. For us, that one thing was getting out of debt. Getting out of debt convinced me that I actually can do something about my life to have the life I really want. I proved the point. It's like when I won that 4th grade cake decorating contest, and I got a ribbon at 4th place boys category. 3rd place boys, 3rd, not 4th, 3rd. I knew I could win something. I still remember that. That's very special to me. You'll have one thing in your life that'll be the catalyst for everything else. It'll free you up to live the life you really want. So the process to sell our house took time. We hired a financial coach. He came in and reminded us how stupid we were about how we spend our money. Here I'm broke and I'm paying a guy $250 to sit in my living room and go, is this how you really want to spend your money? Well, no. Why are you doing it? That's accountability. You invite someone to come in and look at your private, you want to know what someone's like? Look at their checkbook, look at their calendar. You knew what I was like back then. It was embarrassing to see how we spent God's money. The success of selling our house led to another success, and the ideas were magically popping up because my brain was free of all the things that weighed me down. Once the stress of debt was gone, we moved over to the different areas. And my business doubled in 2020 and doubled in 21 again. I believe obedience leads to blessings. If you're shaking your fist at God going, hey, what's up? What are you doing for me? Look in the mirror. Ask yourself, have you been obedient so that he can bless you? It's not rocket science. Okay, one of the realities you need to think about as you're doing this is you may need new friends. As you go through this journey, the people who have empowered you to live a life as a victim probably are not the same people who will encourage you to live as a victor. That doesn't mean abandon all your friends. It just means you need to invite new people in. In this room are probably some people that you've known for a long time that you could say, dude, will you walk this journey with me? I want to do this, but I don't feel I can do it. That's why we have times like this. This is not the whole thing. This is the catalyst of the opportunity for you to build people in your life who will be there for you. Look around and find someone today. Invite them into your journey. The second thing is you need to understand there's a difference between role and identity. After a long time of living as a victim, you might think you suck. You don't. But we start to equate the performance of our role as to our identity as a human. They're not the same. And so when you're a bad parent or a bad spouse or a bad employee or you use the word to define that, whatever that looks like, you start to think I am bad, but you're not. You're a 10. And whatever thing you are in how you rate yourself is as good as you'll do any role ever. So if you think you're only a 6, any role you perform will never be any higher than a 6. But if you claim the idea that you are a 10, and you are a 10, God says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made you. You are a 10. And if you can claim that, every other role has room to grow. That's exciting too, if you own it, if you take command of the life that you really want. Let me encourage you today as you think about what we talked about. Anna did an amazing job of sharing her story. And I'm challenging you to think about, are you living the life you want? Part of that includes work. We've got, right now, media. We've got faith-driven entrepreneurs. We've got enough tools and resources for you to live the life as part of it to support the life you really want. But don't leave it here and don't leave it in church. Take it to work with you every day. Otherwise, 5 days a week, you're living into some weird incongruity that isn't you. Be who you are, whatever your faith is. I would love that everyone here would know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. That's my faith. That's what I believe. But if it's not yours, then rock yours. Learn about it. Dig into it. Practice it. And maybe it's not all you thought it was. Maybe you don't even believe what you thought you believed. I know what I believe because I test it every day. Go and test your faith and work it and enjoy it. Have fun. But don't leave it in church on Sunday or Saturday or whatever day you go to church. Hey, if the world today seems dark, it's because the light isn't doing its job. That's us. We're supposed to be a light. Nobody needs a light at church. It's bright enough. Take your light to work. That's where it's needed more than anything else. Reminder, when you're doing this journey, you're going to fall. Geez, have we fallen since we started this journey? I'm thankful I have a friend like Salem who loves me and sticks up for me and encourages me. We learned from this whole mountain thing that when you get to the top of the mountain, you know, you tie a rope on yourself as you're going along the ridge, because when the dude falls, you jump the other way. Because if you don't jump, you're going down with him. So you tie on to somebody, and then when they fall, you go the other way. We need people like that in our lives. But we also need to understand the reality is you're going to fall. Just be prepared for that so it doesn't surprise you. And then you should know your purpose in your life, because your purpose in your life helps you make decisions between two great choices. Last truth is that it's not about getting to the mountaintop, it's about the journey. It's about you developing this skill to own things over and over again. It's working that muscle of how you do this. And it starts with little things and owning it and getting better and better and better. When you climb a mountain, you don't get to stay there. If you climb Mount Everest, it takes months of prep and weeks to get there and days to get to that place. And then you get to spend 7 minutes on top. If you stay there longer, you die. So it's not about the mountaintop. It's about the journey. It's about us growing and doing this well. You'll always be working to find more satisfaction in your life as you take one thing and you fix it, like we did with our debt. We started looking around going, you know, my marriage isn't what I want it to be. And I'm still too fat. And I don't like how I have this friendships, and I don't do this. And we started looking at more things. But that one thing freed us up to look at other things more objectively. So, what do? May I encourage you to take out your phone right now and get this magical QR code I promised you earlier. And take this and click it and go take this today, not now, because we're still doing stuff. But get ready to go take this assessment and be honest with yourself. Score it. How satisfied are you now? Don't score it, well, I have a crappy marriage, so I'm okay, I'll give it a 5. Hey, if you have a crappy marriage, what was it like when you got married? What did you dream your family life would be like when you were young? Compare it to that. Score it to that. Score it to how you thought your career would be, not to where you've compromised and given up all hope. And score that, and then figure out what you want to do about it. Make a plan. Talk to someone you care about. Invite them into your journey. So today I've shared all this. You can just ignore this and go on your way, and I won't know. Doesn't change my life whether you do or not, because nobody cares until you do. But I hope this will inspire you to get the book, read the book, apply it to your life, commit to owning it, and live the life that you really want. Because life is better when you own it.